welcome to the Christian News Journal in 3 questions. And I'm with Shannon Bream, Fox News host, anchor. She's an author, a woman of faith. Thank you, Shannon, for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's dive right in, guys. As we all know, COVID has been really hard for a lot of us. I got to ask you, how are you getting through this yourself, and how has your faith anchored you during this time?
You know, early on in the pandemic, I think we all were really scared and very rattled, and the news was all bad. And so I found every day I was waking up to my phone, to alerts, to things that were telling me more people sick, more people dying, jobs lost, the market's crashing. And it was so overwhelming. And I thought, I've always been a person who spent time in the Word and in prayer, and that's been important to me, but it has never been more important to me than this past year, where I said to myself, I cannot do any of this before I do that. So for the first few minutes when I get up, it's in prayer, it's in reading, it's in journaling, and it's in just getting my roots back and saying, Lord, I don't know what this day is going to throw at us, but you are sovereign, you are solid, you are eternal. In this world, we know we're going to have trouble. And so I got to get firmly rooted there. And on the day that I'm quote, too busy, or I run around without doing that first, I feel it all day. I think we all need that strength that is beyond ourselves.
No, thank you so much. And I got to ask you, as a person of faith, I'm a person of faith as well, and our readers, of course, we feel like culture is against us today. Mm-hmm. It's cancel culture. It's just remarkable. I got to ask you this. What is your response and reaction? What would you tell these people who feel like the world is really against them, especially our culture?
Yeah, you know what I think about Jesus? And nobody had cancel culture worse than Jesus.
True.
There were leaders who were trying to trip him up all the time. There's religious leaders who wanted to catch him saying something wrong. They definitely wanted to cancel him. And they thought that they had by finally having him taken to the cross. We are told this world is going to be full of trouble, but he is always faithful that he will walk us through it. I found that in the darkest moments of my life. It doesn't feel good to feel like people disregard your faith or your beliefs, or that they want to cancel you over it. I also think about what God told us our greatest commandments are: to love him with our heart, mind, soul, and spirit, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. Not when they're doing things that are nice and they're accepting us, but even when they don't. I think showing them grace, showing them compassion, and realizing that the only approval that really matters is God's. And that's tough. And it's hard when you are being singled out or ridiculed or punished, or feeling that you're being harassed, even in an employment situation or some other way because of your faith. I'm not trying to minimize it or say that it's easy, but I know that Christ understands because he's been there.
Yeah, thank you. And finally, let's talk about this amazing book. And I think as women, we all need people that we can relate to. Not only here on earth, but in history. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me how it came to write this book for you?
I love these women's stories. Some of them I knew really well. I mean, I grew up in the church and in faith and in Christian school, so I thought I knew them well until I really started to study. And there were so many unique nuggets and twists and turns I'd forgotten in some of these stories, or I really saw freshly for the first time. So my hope is that somebody who is a person of faith will learn something new, or somebody who is intimidated or not interested in religion at all. These women's stories are amazing. They stand alone as people that God certainly wanted to spotlight and include in his word. And listen, we include everyone. I mean, we've got a prostitute, we've got a murderer, we've got a queen, we've got the mother of Jesus. So we have women who are humble and who are great in the world's eyes. And it just shows me that God uses everyone. He can work through every story, whatever our situations are. And the problems these women experienced back then, centuries ago, were still universal. I mean, things like widowhood and infertility and longing for something that doesn't seem it's going to come true. So I found so much encouragement there, and knowing that the God of those days who worked through those stories and those circumstances is the God of today. And he is still working through our circumstance, and he's there for us when we are faithful. And even when we make a mess, and some of these women in this book and in the Bible got way off track.
It made me feel like I have it more together.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you don't have to be perfect to come to God or to seek his help. I mean, he meets you where you are.
I got to ask you though, which one are you drawn to out of all these women in your book? Who do you kind of feel like a connection to?
You know what? I think about the woman who we don't even know her name, but she's in several of the Gospels as somebody who had an issue of bleeding for 12 years. I dealt with a chronic illness for a long time, and for people who are in that place, listen, I know it can be very dark and very much a struggle, but she'd spent everything that she had, gone to every doctor, she was penniless and with no recovery and no help. But she'd heard about Jesus, and she just said, if I can just get close enough to touch the hem of this man's cloak, that will heal me. And that's what happened. And she was somebody who was an outsider because she was considered unclean. She shouldn't have probably been in the temple or the markets or with other people, or certainly not this crowd around Jesus. But he didn't condemn her at all. Instead, he had great compassion and mercy on her. And he said, daughter, he called her daughter. He said, your faith has made you whole. So I love that idea that he is there for her in her worst pain. Because I walked that road and I felt God was faithful to me through that. I love her story, and I hope it will encourage other people.
Any follow up on this, like maybe a devotional that we should look out for?
I don't know. I think there's still so many other fascinating women that we didn't get to include in this book. There are study questions, by the way, in this book at the end of each chapter. You can do alone or do as a group Bible study. But yeah, maybe something along the lines of a devotional, or we'll show you and introduce you to even more amazing women the next time around. We'll see.
Well, we look forward to that. Shannon Bream, everyone, Fox News lead anchor, a lovely woman of faith, and she encourages all of us to keep pressing forward. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you. Great to meet you, at least virtually.
We'll see you tonight on TV.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.